say that AstaReal astaxanthin is the most studied brand of astaxanthin.
Premiumbeat.com.
各位贵宾、各位厂商朋友，大家好！我们非常高兴今天大家有拨空来到我们辉明制药主办的枣红素专家研讨会。我们这次非常荣幸的邀请到了来自于日本富士化学的 AstaReal 的总经理Eric Caston。我们这次的话，主题的话，主要是介绍。除了我们除了对枣红素有一个完整的介绍之外，我们对于现在高龄的一些肌少症与一些强化肌肉的一个部分，也会做进一步的解说。台湾目前的话，已经迈入了高龄化的一个社会，所以一些因为高龄而衍生的一些问题与疾病都衍生而来。所以我们这次所介绍的枣红素，它可以我们待会在会中的话，我们会介绍说如何使用枣红素来预防及改善这些问题与疾病，以来改善就是老年的生活。那如果待会大家在会中对于内容如果有什么问题的话，会后会有 Q&A 的时间，那请大家就是踊跃提问。那在此，那我们就是以热烈的掌声来欢迎就是 Eric， 谢谢。
Great, thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. I apologize for the delay. As he mentioned, my name is Eric Caston with AstaReal. I'm very happy for the opportunity to speak to you about reducing muscle fatigue and muscle loss in seniors using natural astaxanthin. If I start going too fast, just wave at me, ask me to slow down. I'll be happy to do so. Sometimes I get a little nervous and start going fast. Let me know. Okay, first I want to introduce our company. We are the AstaReal Group. We are proud to say that we are the pioneers in the production and also the research and development into natural astaxanthin. AstaReal is part of the Fuji Chemical Group of Japan. Fuji Chemical is a pharmaceutical company in Japan that is celebrating the 70th anniversary of its operation this year. So that's really a very important point for us. We believe that we're the only astaxanthin supplier in the world that has a strong pharmaceutical background. We're now operating globally. You can see that we have algae production facilities in Gustavsberg, Sweden, and also the United States that produce the astaxanthin, and we have sales offices across the world. We are the AstaReal Group. These are the contents of my presentation for today. I'm going to start off with a brief introduction into natural astaxanthin, let you know a little bit about the molecule itself, and then I'm going to give you an overview of some of natural astaxanthin's health benefits. The main part of the talk will focus on astaxanthin's benefits for muscle, but I do want to give you a brief overview of some of its benefits in other areas of the body. Third, we will look at astaxanthin's benefits specifically for muscle fatigue and muscle loss in seniors. And then at the end, I want to give you some product development ideas, explain how you can use the ingredients to create products for persons that may be struggling with muscle loss. Okay, so first let's look at astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is a naturally occurring carotenoid. If you look at the molecule, you'll see it's quite similar to beta-carotene, lutein, or zeaxanthin. It's found in marine organisms. If you boil a lobster or a crab or a shrimp, what happens? They're going to turn bright red or bright pink. That red color is the astaxanthin. Salmon also store astaxanthin in their muscles. We'll talk more about salmon a little bit later. So it is a natural pigment that has a wide range of functions in the animal kingdom. We're most excited about it because it's one of the most powerful antioxidants that we have encountered. If we look at the molecule, we mentioned it is a carotenoid, does look quite similar to lutein and zeaxanthin. I only want to point out two parts of the molecule. One is this long central chain of alternating double and single bonds. It's a very electron-rich area that we believe is responsible for the high antioxidant power of astaxanthin. you'll see on the ring structures, astaxanthin also has 2 oxygen groups. That also serves to increase the antioxidant power of the molecule and also gives it some interesting properties that we'll see on a later slide. So we said it's a powerful antioxidant. If we look at astaxanthin and compare its singlet oxygen quenching power, singlet oxygen being a type of reactive oxidant species, we're going to see that it's 40 times stronger than beta-carotene, 500 times stronger than vitamin E, 800 times stronger than CoQ10, 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C. Okay, this is very nice, very important numbers, but we recognize that this is in vitro. I'll be showing you some studies later that shows that astaxanthin is working as an antioxidant in the body. But these in vitro results are very interesting. It shows that it does have good antioxidant power. We think that this slide is really one of the most important slides about astaxanthin. Again, we're looking at the molecule, and here we can see we've labeled the center of the molecule as being a long nonpolar chain. Because of the oxygen groups on the 2 ring structures, those ring structures are going to have some polarity. And there have been studies that have looked at astaxanthin in membrane systems that shows that astaxanthin can actually fit across the cell membrane and also the mitochondrial membrane. So we'll be talking about the mitochondria later and some of astaxanthin's benefits for the mitochondria. But this unique ability to fit and span across the cell membrane, we think, is what makes astaxanthin different from antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin E, or beta-carotene. That structure mimics the polar, nonpolar, polar structure of the cell membrane and the mitochondrial membrane. There's been a lot of research into natural astaxanthin. You can see there's been 500 peer-reviewed scientific studies on astaxanthin. There have been over 120 studies that have used the AstaReal material. If we look at just human studies, those are human studies that looked at natural astaxanthin's benefits for health, we can see that there have been 121 studies and about 98 human studies on natural astaxanthin and 66 studies that use the AstaReal material. So we're looking at about 70% of the human studies have used the AstaReal material. So we're very proud to be able to say that AstaReal is the most studied brand of astaxanthin. If you're taking a product that has the AstaReal ingredient, in most cases, you're taking a product that contains the same ingredient that was used in the scientific study. Here you can see the areas of research: cardiovascular, brain, endurance, skin, diabetes, and other areas. Okay. So now I want to look at some of those studies. We said the main part of the study, or the seminar, will be on muscle, but we do want to look at some astaxanthin studies in other areas to give you an introduction and overview. Okay. So we said 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C. That's great, but that is an in vitro test and experimental test. We do have studies, though, in humans that show that astaxanthin can reduce oxidative stress and improve antioxidant status in overweight subjects, in older subjects, in smokers, and in postmenopausal women. And all of these groups tend to be subject to higher levels of oxidative stress and higher levels of lifestyle disease. I won't show you studies for all of these. I just want to show you studies in 2 areas. The first is this study on smokers. Smokers, of course, are almost intentionally exposing themselves to high levels of oxidative stress, inputting free radicals directly through the cigarette smoke. And here we had smokers that took 5 milligrams of astaxanthin a day for 3 weeks. Okay. On the bottom we have, On the bottom we have plasma MDA and also plasma isoprostane. Those are biomarkers that indicate that oxidation has occurred, biomarkers for oxidative stress. So we want these, the plasma MDA, the plasma isoprostane, of course, to go down. We see that after 3 weeks, the plasma MDA has been reduced by 32% and a significant, almost 90% reduction in the plasma isoprostane. So we see oxidative stress markers going down. At the top, we have superoxide dismutase. This is one of your body's own antioxidants. And TAC for total antioxidant capacity. Of course, we want these to go up because these are a measure of your body's own antioxidant protection system. In these smokers, after 3 weeks, these went up by 100% and 70% respectively. So we are seeing that astaxanthin is working in the body as an antioxidant to reduce oxidative stress. We have one more study, this time on overweight subjects. Overweight subjects also tend to have higher levels of oxidative stress, also tend to have higher levels of inflammation. We'll be talking about sarcopenia later. Sarcopenia patients are also often overweight or have excessive fat. So this is actually also relevant to the sarcopenia that we'll talk about later. This slide, I apologize, is a little bit difficult to understand, but these numbers in red are the overweight group that took astaxanthin. The bars in white are normal weight subjects that had no intervention. So in red we have overweight, and then we have white, we have normal weight. Again, if we look at plasma MDA, indicating oxidative stress, we'll say that before, at baseline, these astaxanthin subjects that were overweight had higher levels than the normal weight subject. That was reduced by 35% by taking the astaxanthin. Over here we're looking at total antioxidant capacity. The overweight subjects had lower total antioxidant capacity. After taking the astaxanthin, that increased to 22%. Superoxide dismutase, before they had about half of the superoxide dismutase as normal weight subjects. After taking the astaxanthin, 93% increase, and you can see the levels are similar to the normal weight subjects. These are there's 3 or 4 other studies that also show that astaxanthin can work as an antioxidant in the body. Next, I want to look at astaxanthin's benefits for skin. I'll be honest with you, the research into skin, there is less studies on skin than some of the other areas. But when it comes to products, this is probably the most popular area. Skin and beauty is always very popular, no matter where you are in the world, and astaxanthin is no different. And there is some good research on astaxanthin for skin. There have been studies that show that astaxanthin improves skin elasticity, preventing moisture loss, inhibiting collagen-damaging enzymes, reducing fine wrinkles, and shrinking age spots. So there's already some good research on astaxanthin for skin. Today I just want to show you 2 because that's not the focus of the seminar. But this is a study that used 6 milligrams of astaxanthin and also a topical application of astaxanthin. So this was a combination study that used oral plus topical. And we did see a reduction in fine wrinkles after 8 weeks. This looks at the width of the wrinkle and the depth of the wrinkle were both decreased. Now many people have asked us about this, and they say, okay, oral and topical, which one is it? Which is working? Which is more important? We believe that really the oral astaxanthin is the key to skin health. And we're actually repeating this study in Japan right now using only the oral arm, so without topical. The preliminary results suggest that oral only offers the same benefits. But we did want to point out that this is a combination study. One more, here we see a study from Korea in 2014. You had women that of about age 50 that had mild wrinkles. They were taking 2 milligrams of astaxanthin a day combined with collagen, and we saw significant improvements in skin elasticity. Not shown here, skin moisture was also improved, protection from collagen-damaging enzymes. We have other studies that show that astaxanthin alone also offers these same benefits, but adding astaxanthin with collagen is a very interesting combination for skin. Next is some of astaxanthin's benefits for lifestyle diseases. We've had studies that show that astaxanthin reduces triglycerides, reduces LDL, increases HDL, reduces TNF-alpha, so tends to reduce systemic inflammation, improves HbA1c numbers, increases adiponectin, and provides support for liver health. I want to look at just a few of those studies today. These are 2 studies, and this is one of the reasons I personally take astaxanthin, is for these reduction in triglyceride benefits. Triglycerides are maybe not quite as well known as LDL, but certainly a very important number for your cardiovascular health. Often you'll go to the doctor if you have very high triglycerides. They may check further and realize that you have diabetes or prediabetes, so triglycerides are quite important. Here we see 4 milligrams of astaxanthin taken over 4 weeks, reduced triglyceride levels by about 25%. Here we have repeated in a double-blind placebo-controlled study Again, 6 milligrams of astaxanthin and 12 milligrams of astaxanthin, reducing triglycerides between 17 and 25%. So these triglycerides are quite important also for your liver health. Triglycerides are implicated in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So these are human studies that show that it reduces triglycerides. This is an animal study in mice showing that astaxanthin improved fatty liver disease. So these poor mice were given basically an American diet. They were given a diet that was intended to cause fatty liver disease, very high cholesterol, high fat diet. And you can see the mouse liver, after 8 weeks on this horrible diet, is full of fat deposits. Okay? The same diet, but taking the equivalent of 6 milligrams per day, this was adjusted for the mice, of course, you can see that these fat deposits in the liver are greatly reduced. Okay? So it's a very exciting preliminary evidence that astaxanthin can provide liver support and protection from non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases. It also showed reduction in oxidative stress biomarkers in the liver, inflammation, and other improvements in the liver tissue. Next, this is a human case study. I want to be clear that this is not a full clinical study, but this is a case study that was shown on the Japanese NHK television program. And this patient had 24 weeks of treatment that included natural astaxanthin. Now, I want to be clear that this was traditional treatment, and that was had natural astaxanthin was added to that as an adjuvant therapy. But in this human biopsy, you can see the same type of results. Before the treatment that included astaxanthin, lots of fat deposits in the liver. After the treatment with astaxanthin, you see a very significant reduction of fat in the liver. So we think that astaxanthin has very good benefits, very good potential benefits for lifestyle diseases. I would mention that AstaReal is currently supporting what we believe is the first clinical study on type 2 diabetes with astaxanthin. That's happening right now in San Diego in the United States. We believe that the results will be quite positive, and we should see those by early 2017. Last of the introduction, this is astaxanthin's benefits for eye health. Studies have shown astaxanthin reduces the eye fatigue that is associated with computer vision syndrome. It improves accommodation. That means the function, the focusing function of the eye, improved capillary circulation in the eye, and also improved pupillary contraction. Astaxanthin in the eye health market, of course, has a lot of competition from lutein and zeaxanthin. Lutein and zeaxanthin are very good for the retina. We think astaxanthin has some benefits for the retina also. But astaxanthin's main benefits for the eye are in a different area, away from the retina, and that is in this ciliary muscle. Okay, so later we're going to talk about muscle health and astaxanthin. This eye benefit is actually a muscle benefit because you have a very small muscle in your eye called the ciliary body that controls the shape of your lens. If you're looking at something far away, that muscle can relax. If you're looking at something up close, like your smartphone or the computer, that little muscle is under constant contraction, and this causes blurry vision, stiff neck, problems with focusing, what they call computer vision syndrome. It seems that astaxanthin supports this muscle in the eye and helps it to function and recover more quickly. So here we have one of the, I think there's about 10 studies that have replicated this same result. Here we have 6 milligrams or 12 milligrams of astaxanthin taken for 4 weeks. These subjects did have eye fatigue, and you can see that the accommodation has improved by 21% and 27%. So that accommodation is the ability of the eye to focus on objects. It's also good for older eyes. I don't know, I've noticed this myself, but you start to have to hold the book a little bit further away from you. I guess I should not do that with a microphone. That wouldn't work very well. You hold the book farther away from you because you have trouble focusing on objects that are close. When you focus on something up close, your pupil needs to contract. This study showed that astaxanthin improved the pupillary contraction ratio by about 13%, a significant result. So we will point out that on the strength of these studies in Japan and also Korea, that support for eye fatigue is a recognized label claim. I'll give you one example of a very successful product right now in Japan that uses astaxanthin. This is Enkine. And if you see this gentleman here, you know, he's got 5 different pairs of glasses because he needs a pair for the TV, he needs a pair for you know, cooking, he needs a pair for when he's up close. And the recognized label claim here is it will, you know, help you to focus and help you to see better. We're proud to say that the AstaReal material is used in this very successful product in Japan. Okay. Now I want to move on to the main portion of my talk, with is astaxanthin for muscle. And we're looking specifically at sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is a relatively newly recognized syndrome. It's associated with muscle loss, but also a decrease in muscle performance and muscle function. Okay? And it really has quite a lot of negative adverse outcomes. Falls increase, disabilities increase, you tend to stay in the hospital longer, it reduces quality of life, and even mortality is increased in sarcopenia. Of course, the muscle is reduced, but you also see an increase of fat. Increase of fat in the muscle, and also within the muscle is characteristic of sarcopenia or muscle loss. Osteoporosis is quite well known, okay? But I think sarcopenia is somewhat less well known. You can think of sarcopenia as the osteoporosis of the muscles, okay? And while there are many, many supplements and many, many therapies for osteoporosis, not many at all for sarcopenia. So we think it's quite exciting that astaxanthin may have benefits in this underserved area. If we look at the impact of sarcopenia, you'll see that it does increase with age. Globally, by around 60 to 70 years old, you'll have about 5 to 13% of the population. Once you get to be about 80 years old, up to 50% of some populations will show sarcopenia. I showed you numbers here from Japan. I picked Japan because Japan is very healthy and the people are living a very long time. So Japan kind of shows the future for everywhere, because people in all countries are living longer. But even in healthy Japan, you'll see that by the time, these are men and women, I'm sorry, I forget which is which. Actually, I think men had higher levels of sarcopenia in Japan. They're up to 75% of these men over age 85 are suffering from sarcopenia. We're looking at maybe 50 million people with sarcopenia currently. That could go up to 200 million in the next 40 years as the population gets older. Okay. Sarcopenia often occurs with other age-related diseases. Osteoporosis is almost always associated with sarcopenia. Diabetes and insulin resistance can increase the incidence of sarcopenia. Metabolic syndrome, and especially if you have a, what they call in Japan, a birupara, or a big beer belly, that is associated with sarcopenia, cardiovascular disease, and rheumatoid arthritis also. It's some debate. Does the diabetes and insulin resistance cause the sarcopenia, or does the sarcopenia contribute to the diabetes and insulin resistance? Probably there's some, it probably goes both ways there. But certainly sarcopenia can complicate these other lifestyle-related diseases. If we look very quickly at the diagnosis of sarcopenia, the European Working Group on Sarcopenia in older people recommends that you test both for low muscle mass and also for low muscle function. You can test for low muscle mass by a DEXA scan. This can also be used for osteoporosis, so you could scan for sarcopenia at the same time. For muscle strength, they often use a hand grip strength test. I didn't know this, but your hand grip strength is very well correlated with your leg strength. Okay? And leg strength, of course, helps you to avoid falls. So actually the hand grip strength test is very good for checking for sarcopenia. Physical performance, they can test your walking speed. If they find that you're walking much slower than other people in your same age group, that could be indications of sarcopenia. This get up and go test is also a time test. We'll ask you to get up, walk across the room, come back. We'll see how long it takes you to do these normal everyday functions. There is hope for sarcopenia. It's certainly not inevitable. Probably some amount of muscle loss is going to happen. But if you make some lifestyle choices, such as having a diet that is high in protein, and especially doing resistance training. But this doesn't have to be weights, although weight training certainly helped this older gentleman and helped her. But this can be any sort of body weights, push-ups, anything that has resistance training. In some studies, in just 16 weeks, a weight training or resistance training program increased strength by 60% in 65 and 75-year-old subjects. So resistance training can definitely help. And we think that if you add astaxanthin to this recommended resistance training, you're going to get even better benefits. I'm sorry, you can't take the astaxanthin alone and lay on the sofa. You have to get out there and do a reasonable amount of exercise. But we're going to see that astaxanthin can help. Anytime we talk about muscle, we like to go back and look at the salmon again, because the salmon is actually what gave researchers the first idea that maybe astaxanthin could benefit muscles. If you look at salmon flesh, what do you see? Bright red. Salmon are storing astaxanthin in their muscles intentionally. So why would they do this? You can see the text at the top mentions that when salmon return from the ocean to reproduce, in the longest cases, they're going to swim 1,500 kilometers upstream without eating. Okay? So they're really endurance champions. Okay? And we know that anytime you're having this extreme exertion, your muscles are also producing high levels of reactive oxygen species, high levels of free radicals. So we believe that the astaxanthin the salmon store the astaxanthin in their muscles to protect those muscles from oxidation. A very interesting story from nature with astaxanthin. One of the very first studies on astaxanthin for muscles gave subjects, I believe it was 4 milligrams of astaxanthin per day for 6 months. And it was found that the astaxanthin group significantly increased their number of squats that they could perform compared to a placebo. So this is the maximum number of squats that they could perform. Not much change in the placebo group, quite a significant improvement in the astaxanthin group. So when we think about squats, we're usually thinking about this guy, right? In the gym, running it out. But squats are also very important for us as we get older. In fact, a professor of kinesiology at a university in the United States said that the squat might be the #1 exercise for preventing sarcopenia. Okay? So if we have something that can help improve muscle performance in squats in younger subjects, we should definitely also try that for older subjects that may be struggling with sarcopenia. Okay? Here's a study from the United States that found that 4 milligrams of astaxanthin increased the speed and also the power output of a competitive cyclist. So these competitive cyclists did a 20-kilometer time trial with no astaxanthin. The astaxanthin group took 4 milligrams of astaxanthin for 4 weeks, repeated the 20-kilometer time trial, and the astaxanthin group had about a 2-minute increase, statistically significant increase, no increase in the placebo group. So here another study showing that astaxanthin can improve muscle performance. Because of this type of results, we would point out that AstaReal in Canada has been recognized by Health Canada to claim that astaxanthin is a source of antioxidants, but also that astaxanthin can help to improve muscle endurance. So that's a recognized claim now in Canada, and we're hoping that that will extend to other countries as we get more evidence. So we saw those human studies. Now we want to look at some experimental studies or some animal studies that we think are very suggestive of astaxanthin's benefits for sarcopenia. I apologize for the mice lovers here. This is a mouse study. Okay? This mouse, you can see here, had its hind limb immobilized. Okay? And unfortunately, when we get older, because of other ailments, we may have to spend some time in the hospital. When we spend the time in the hospital, what are we doing? We're laying in bed, basically immobilized. And some of us, like me, I sit at a computer all day, looking at astaxanthin research papers. My lower body is also immobilized from sitting. So unfortunately, this immobilization does happen when we get older because of decreased activity and hospitalization. And what happens to the muscle is that the capillaries, or the blood vessels in that unused muscle, are reduced and they atrophy. So if you see here, this HU means immobilized. Here is the normal muscle. You can see that these capillaries, represented in green, are greatly reduced. So in just 7 days, this muscle has lost a lot of vascularity, a lot of capillaries. When we add astaxanthin, you can see here visually that even though the limb was immobilized, that astaxanthin has preserved the capillary volume and also the diameter of those capillary vessels. So some very interesting experimental research on astaxanthin. The same thing happened to mice as it happens to humans. Apparently after 30 years old, 30-year-old is your peak. If you don't do anything after that, 30, 40, 50, 60, each decade you're going to lose muscle mass. This happens to mice as well. So in this study, mice were given astaxanthin for 97 weeks and compared to a placebo group. And what we found was that the mice taking astaxanthin had higher muscle weight and had a higher relative muscle weight. So overall, these mice had more muscle mass in the control group from taking astaxanthin. So this was really one of the studies that made us think we really need to do a human study on astaxanthin for sarcopenia. In sarcopenia, the role of the mitochondria is very important. I think everybody knows the mitochondria, but the mitochondria produces energy in all of your cells, but especially in the muscle cells, the mitochondria is very important. And often in sarcopenia patients, what you'll see is that these mitochondria will have reduced energy capacity. They don't produce energy as well. And they also have reduced mitochondrial mass. So you'll actually have fewer mitochondria in patients that have sarcopenia. So we'll look at a few in vitro studies or experimental studies that show that astaxanthin can help both improving the mitochondrial energy output and also increasing the amount of mitochondria in the muscle. Okay. First, this is a study by the Aoi group in Japan. And what they found in this study, this was a mouse study, but they found that astaxanthin can increase the transport of fatty acids into the mitochondria by increasing the expression of the CPT1, which is something I can't pronounce very well, but I'll let you look at it right there. Okay. This is necessary. The CPT1 is necessary to push the fatty acid into the mitochondria so that it can be used for fuel. Here we have a very simple diagram of the mitochondria. You can see the fatty acid has to be imported or transported into the mitochondria to produce ATP. And the situation is very simple. When astaxanthin is added, more fatty acids are able to be transported into the mitochondria and more energy can be produced. I wanted to point out this lactate or lactic acid pathway. So when your mitochondria are using glycogen or glucose, one of the byproducts there is going to be lactic acid. And that takes us to an older study from Japan that found that astaxanthin reduced lactic acid in collegiate athletes that ran a 1,200-meter run. Okay? And we now think that the reason that lactic acid was reduced on a relative basis is because that these athletes were able to burn more fatty acid, and through that fatty acid cycle, the lactic acid would not be produced. So we think that this human study also indicates that astaxanthin is increasing use of fatty acids by the mitochondria to burn fuel. But of course, lactic acid a reduction of lactic acid is also a desirable outcome for athletes. So also a very good study in that respect. Okay. Oxidative stress is a big problem in sarcopenia, especially oxidative stress affecting the mitochondria. There's a lot of literature implicating oxidative stress and sarcopenia. Okay. This study showed that AstaReal astaxanthin protected cells from oxidative stress caused by high level of glucose. Okay. Due to the markers here, this red is going to indicate increased reactive oxygen species due to high levels of glucose. When astaxanthin is added in this in vitro study, we'll see a reduction in reactive oxygen species. Okay. We can also see this on the cellular level. Okay. So this is again a mouse study we're looking at heart muscle and leg muscle, and these mice have done extreme exercise to the point where you can see the products of oxidation in the leg muscle here in these dark or black oxidation products. So both in the leg muscle and the heart muscle, you can see that after the strenuous exercise, you're seeing these dark areas caused by oxidation of lipids. Exercise plus astaxanthin, we see that this oxidation is reduced. So astaxanthin does seem to be very good for protecting muscle from the effects of oxidative stress. Membrane potential is also very important for efficient energy production. And here we can see astaxanthin in vitro protected the mitochondrial membrane potential from oxidative stress or reactive oxidative species. So in this case, red is good, orange is good, because that indicates high membrane potential in the mitochondria. You can see the astaxanthin treated group has higher mitochondrial membrane protection. So we do see some very good evidence that astaxanthin is really working as a mitochondrial nutrient to protect the mitochondria from oxidative stress. Look at one more interesting study about astaxanthin in the mitochondria. PGC1 alpha, often in sarcopenia patients, in animal models and human models, this PGC1 alpha will be decreased. Okay? PGC1 alpha is associated with mitochondrial biogenesis. So simplified, more PGC1 alpha should lead to more production of mitochondria, more mitochondrial biogenesis. And we do see a study showing just that with astaxanthin. We saw that astaxanthin elevated the expression of PGC1 alpha, and that should be able to increase mitochondrial biogenesis. So because of all of these studies that point the way towards astaxanthin being very beneficial for sarcopenia, AstaReal is very proud to have sponsored the first human clinical study on astaxanthin for sarcopenia. I regret to tell you that this study was actually completed just a few months ago. It's going to be published in September or October of this year. So I do not have the data today to show you. But at the AstaReal Symposium in February in Tokyo, Dr. Kevin Connolly presented his preliminary evidence, and it was very strong. Sarcopenia patients who took astaxanthin and did resistance training had higher levels of muscle mass than patients who did resistance training alone. So this first study showing that astaxanthin combined with resistance training can increase muscle mass in sarcopenia should be published by September, and we'll certainly be back next year to give you the details on that study. To summarize the benefits for muscle, we've already seen in some human subjects that it improves muscle performance and endurance. We've seen in experimental studies that it preserves muscle capillaries during inactivity. We've seen that it can enhance mitochondrial energy production by increasing the CPT1, probably increase mitochondrial biogenesis by elevating the PGC alpha, and also protection of mitochondria from oxidative stress. So we think astaxanthin has very good benefits for sarcopenia going forward. Next, I want to give you a few ideas of how products can be developed using AstaReal astaxanthin, that you can make innovative products for customers that may be struggling with sarcopenia, muscle loss, or other lifestyle diseases. Okay? First, I want to point out the source of our AstaReal astaxanthin. Earlier we mentioned salmon, crabs, shrimp. All of these animals have astaxanthin, but they cannot produce astaxanthin themselves. Astaxanthin in nature ultimately comes from algae, and algae is also the source of AstaReal astaxanthin. This is the Hematococcus pluvialis algae. You can see I've emphasized this is the only natural source of astaxanthin. There is synthetic astaxanthin available. There is astaxanthin from yeast that has been genetically modified a bit, astaxanthin from bacteria. All of those have problems and are not well researched. We really think that the algae form is the only form that should be responsibly taken at this time. If we have any questions about those other forms after the talk, I'd be happy to talk about them. This algae, in response to stress in its environment, produces astaxanthin. And it produces so much astaxanthin that it turns bright red. The astaxanthin then can protect that algae even if all of the water in the environment dries up, even if there's no more food, no more nutrients, even if it's exposed to high levels of UV radiation. The astaxanthin protects the algae, and we can see that it also protects human cells from stress. Okay. This just shows you our cultivation process. We're going to grow these algae in a controlled environment I'll talk about in a second. We harvest the algae. This is a single cell algae. We have to crack that cell wall to access the astaxanthin. We use CO2 extraction, so no organic solvents involved. And that's going to give us a very astaxanthin-rich oil. Okay? In our facilities in Japan, we can do additional processing, and we can make lower viscosity oils. We can make water-soluble grades, water-soluble beadlets. We have a lot of competitors in the natural astaxanthin space that are growing their algae outdoors. Okay? And growing outdoors in an open pond system or in a tube system is certainly cheaper. It's cheaper to grow it outdoors and use Mother Nature's sunlight. But the problem is that the results are very inconsistent. Some days or some months you're going to have very good weather, very good astaxanthin. Other months it's going to be a little cloudy, the temperature was too high or too low. You're going to have lower quality astaxanthin. And this astaxanthin is a fairly high value product. These companies will not throw out the low quality astaxanthin. Okay? They're going to have to sell that, okay? Because of the investment that they put into it. AstaReal does something different. We grow all of our algae indoors in a completely indoor system we mentioned in Sweden and also in the United States. We're very nervous about showing it to you. The technology is quite proprietary, but we have very large fermentation tanks that are filled with internal light sources, temperature control. So we're able to have exactly the same conditions for every batch. Okay? So we do have a natural product, but we are controlling the life cycle of that natural product very tightly. And this indoor system gives us the highest purity and the most consistent quality of astaxanthin on the market. Okay? Look at some of the specific ingredients. This is an astaxanthin extract oil. This is basically we extract the oil from the algae and we're done. Okay? This can be put into soft gels. Probably globally, soft gels are the most popular way to take astaxanthin. But we're talking about sarcopenia in older patients. Some of these patients, may not be able to swallow pills very well. Some of these patients may be sick of pills because they already have to take, a dozen pills anyway. So we're going to show you some ways that you can formulate products that contain astaxanthin that are not in pill or tablet form. Okay? We've done some tests putting astaxanthin in chocolate. In the dark chocolate, you can't see. Where is it? In the white chocolate, you can see that just 2 milligrams of astaxanthin is going to give it a very bright orange color. And the taste is fine. We have no algae smell, no algae flavor. Stability is good. The oil does not come out of the chocolate. And some of our customers in the United States are already doing this. This is a superfood product from the United States that contains AstaReal astaxanthin. It also includes many other very nice ingredients. But just to show that it doesn't have to be in a soft gel. This can definitely work very well in foods. Here's a product from the UK. This is a beauty chocolate. So this beauty reduces wrinkles. And this company is an excellent idea. They did use AstaReal research. To my knowledge, they didn't use AstaReal material. So that was a bad choice by them. But they did pick a good study using an AstaReal study. So we already have seen on the market that AstaReal is moving into quote-unquote superfoods. Okay? We've tested astaxanthin in cookies. Okay? So we baked these cookies at 170 degrees for 12 minutes. You have about 100% retainment of the astaxanthin, so it is stable during baking. We even had the Japanese Baking Institute to test bread that contained astaxanthin. The oil is very compatible for baking, and it is stable once you get it into that baked good. This means that astaxanthin can be put into protein bars, power bars, and other products that these older patients may already be taking. I do want to point out there's no AstaReal in these particular products yet, but we're working very hard on having AstaReal be included in some protein and power bars. We've also tested it in yogurt, and in Japan, astaxanthin has been used in dairy products quite successfully. So it does work very well in dairy products also. We put it in ice cream, I think just to see if it would work. It did work very well. To my knowledge, there's no astaxanthin ice cream on the market yet, but maybe someone here could develop that. This was an interesting product that's on the market in the United States. Again, we mentioned that some consumers don't want to swallow a pill. This uses the astaxanthin oil combined with some citrus flavor and vitamin D3. So you can just put a drop on your tongue, swallow it, and you're done. So no need to swallow a pill. Very interesting concept from the United States. Next we have water-soluble astaxanthin. This is quite difficult because we said that we're extracting the oil from the algae. So to make that truly water-soluble is quite difficult. Luckily our parent company, Fuji Chemical Industries in Japan, had some very good emulsification technology, and we are quite confident that we have the most water-soluble astaxanthin on the market. The clarity is very good. Here you can see it in water, sports drink, jasmine tea. If you are working on a ready-to-drink beverage that needs clarity, this AstaReal Clear 100 product is ideal. And we've done heat stability tests. This shows that pasteurization and other high heat treatment is possible. We've also done autoclave testing. So astaxanthin certainly works very well in beverages if you want to create a functional beverage for sarcopenia or any of the other health benefits. We've tested it in sports drink, especially sports drink that has a neutral pH, works very, very well. This will give you some idea of the number of products that are on the market in Japan. All of these products contained astaxanthin. You see combined with curcumin or ukon, combined with some probiotics, combined with fruit juice. So it works very, very well in beverages. Okay? It also works well in jelly sticks. Okay? So this is a jelly stick product from the United States that uses that AstaReal eye fatigue benefit to make a product for students. So if you're a student, you're probably studying long hours, your eyes are getting tired. This product will reduce eye fatigue in students. At our booth, and I'll have to get to the last slide. What was our booth number? 1423? I think so. It's on the last slide. We'll make sure. We actually have some jelly products at our booth if you would like to try. This is astaxanthin combined with collagen for a beauty benefit. If you're interested in trying the product for yourself, please come by the booth 1423. Also been used in energy drinks. And the last product we want to mention is the water-soluble beadlets. Our parent company also had very nice spray drying technology. We use that to make water-soluble beadlets that contain 2.5% of the natural astaxanthin. And the real sales point here is that this dissolves in cold water completely in less than 1 minute. It also works in teas. Hot tea is fine. Cold juice, a very flexible product. Here you can see that water solubility in under 1 minute. This is also quite stable. The powder is really designed for powdered drinks. Okay, so we want you to put that into a sachet product that is designed to be consumed almost immediately after mixing, or 1 or 2 days after mixing. If you want a ready-to-drink beverage, the AstaReal Clear 100 is recommended. This can also be taken directly. This is a product from Germany, I believe, that uses the AstaReal water-soluble beadlets. And if you don't have time to mix it into your juice, you can just take that directly. It dissolves very well in the mouth. Again, if you have customers that don't want to take the big tablets or soft gel capsules. Another product containing collagen, astaxanthin, and some other very nice ingredients from Switzerland. Okay. This is my last pitch to try to get you to come by the booth. We've developed some sachet concept samples, again at our booth, that are designed to support muscle health. If you want to come by our booth, anyone that's come to the seminar is welcome to come by. We have samples of this water-soluble astaxanthin that you can try out for yourself. To sum up the advantages of using AstaReal, if you do decide to develop a product that contains astaxanthin, we are the most studied brand of astaxanthin. We're the only supplier that's producing indoors, meaning we have the highest level of purity and quality. We have completed the FDA in the United States new dietary ingredient notification and GRAS up to 12 milligrams. Some companies have not done this. AstaReal is quite strict about making sure that we've passed the regulatory hurdles in every market. We are growing only in the United States and Sweden. We have about 20 years of experience in the natural algae astaxanthin business, and we think that we're the only company that has the technology to produce truly water-soluble astaxanthin ingredients. That is the end of my presentation. I want to thank you very much for your attention and very much for coming. Again, we want to ask you to come by booth 1423. We're right in the back, very easy to find. We have samples there. We're happy to talk more about the studies or anything else that you might be interested in. I think we may have time for some questions. Is that right? Yes, please. If anyone has any questions, we're happy to try to answer those.
Thank you very much for your impressive study about the astaxanthin. I just wonder, sarcopenia, is that a problem even in Taiwan? Normally, we will use the physical endurance exercise.
Right.
And also with some branch amino acid as well.
Right.
So that especially for the leucine. In this case, what is the function for astaxanthin for this kind of muscle buildup beyond the mitochondria benefit? And the others, I just wondering what is the mechanism behind for the cholesterol control, triglyceride control, or vision focus.
Well, first to address sarcopenia in Taiwan, Taiwan actually has somewhat lower levels of sarcopenia than other countries. You guys are beating Japan, so you have lower sarcopenia here, but it's still definitely a problem in Taiwan and elsewhere. For the branched chain amino acids, I would say that, you know, I think any responsible product would try to add both the branched chain amino acids and the astaxanthin would probably give you even better benefits. So I'm not sure it necessarily have to choose one or the other. If you had to choose one, I would say that right now astaxanthin looks like the better choice. I'll leave that up to the doctors. Going back, how does it work in all of these different areas? How does it reduce triglycerides? How does it improve eye health? And it really all goes back to that antioxidant capacity of astaxanthin. It seems in almost any of these conditions that you're going to find higher levels of oxidative stress where an antioxidant could be helpful. We didn't mention, or in this presentation we didn't show, but astaxanthin also has very good anti-inflammatory benefits that are related to the antioxidant property. And again, I mean, you can check almost any condition is going to have higher levels of inflammation. So I think that combination of antioxidant capacity but also anti-inflammatory capacity is maybe why it works in so many different parts of the body.
So do you mean that just for this anti-inflammation and antioxidant, maybe the power for reduce the loss of the muscle?
Yeah, I think the inflammation and well, and this would be my opinion, of course. We're now getting off the track from the research, but I would say yes, inflammation and high levels of oxidative stress are going to contribute to the muscle loss.
Could I ask a question that we know that lutein, beta-carotene, and astaxanthin are similar in the structure,
Yes.
and we know that there's some absorption competition between beta-carotene and lutein. And does that exist in astaxanthin and beta-carotene over lutein? Thank you. And in which kind of dose?
Okay, great. One, it was very interesting, and I usually include the slide but didn't show, but there's something called pro-oxidant activity. Okay? And we all know that beta-carotene beta-carotene in some studies has been shown to be not good, especially in smokers. Beta-carotene has had some bad results. And it seems to be that when the level of reactive oxygen species, levels of free radicals become high, the beta-carotene will become pro-oxidant. So it will actually start to function like a free radical, like one of the bad guys. Astaxanthin is quite unique in that even if levels of reactive oxygen species become very high, it does not become pro-oxidant. You mentioned lutein. Lutein also, at higher levels, will have the same problem. Lutein can also become a pro-oxidant. So there's some studies that have described astaxanthin as a pure antioxidant, meaning that it will keep its antioxidant nature even if the levels of free radicals or reactive oxygen species are very high. As for the dosage, I think all of the studies that I showed you today were between 4 and 12 milligrams. We really think 4 milligrams is the lowest effective dose. Certainly 6 milligrams would be better. The new study on sarcopenia, I believe, is going to use 12 milligrams. So I would say somewhere between 6 and 12 would be the ideal dose for almost any of these health benefits that we talked about today.
Is there any absorption competition between them? I mean that if you take the
Absorption competition?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, and you shouldn't. You don't want to take 50 milligrams of astaxanthin because that could reduce the absorption of some of your other carotenoids. But again, we're talking at doses that are quite low. 6 milligrams to 12 milligrams shouldn't interfere if you keep the dose at that level.
That if we take 30 mg of lutein and 6 milligrams of astaxanthin, is that okay?
I know that there's a lot of products that combine both. Did you say 30 milligrams of lutein? To me that seems a bit high. Most of the combination products that I've seen, and this is just my personal experience, will have a bit lower dose of lutein than that. 30 milligrams might be high. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one on a technical level. I apologize.
我们最后一个提问。
Again, thank you for your brilliant presentation. Have you ever heard that astaxanthin might improve the sleep quality? Because some of my customers come up to me and say, hey, I had your product and it actually helped me sleep better. So I'm wondering if you have any research to back up that.
I think there was one study that it was not looking at sleep quality specifically, but they did have a questionnaire about all types of quality of life. And I believe that sleep quality was one of the benefits that was mentioned in that questionnaire on another study. So I think we have heard of that benefit before. So we're very happy to hear that is another possible benefit. We're looking, another study I didn't mention was just astaxanthin's benefits for fatigue and mental fatigue. So there could be some connection there. It's very interesting.